Hi, my name is Chef Brad. I am the executive chef for campus dining here at Northwest. And obviously we're in the kitchen here at the station. And I just thought I would talk a little bit to you guys about just basic equipment that you need to cook anything really in the kitchen here. So obviously this is the station's kitchen. And I brought some equipment that I thought that you might be able to use or recognize. I'm sure you're all going to be able to recognize all of this stuff. And basically, you know, let's start with the knife. Every kitchen needs a knife. This is my knife that I use every single day in the kitchen. Now, obviously, this is a big knife. People aren't really going to need knives this big. It took me a long time to figure out how to use a knife this big, but I love it. I keep it sharp, and it works for me. And obviously, what goes with the knife but a fork. So you got to have a fork and a knife. Just basic things like that. Let's talk about some of the pots and pans. Obviously there's like Teflon coated skillets and non-Teflon coated skillets, you know, and these are they work for various different tasks. Obviously, you know, if you want to do like some egg dishes or non-stick things, so if you want to cook a little bit more healthily, then you don't have to use as much oil with the non-stick as you would the non-stick as you would the other kind. But they both have their different purposes. They both have their needs in the kitchen. I like them both. I mean, if I want to be lazy and cook some eggs real quick, I'll do this. But if I feel like being a chef, then, you know, I use this. One of the keys that I always use when you're using a skillet that does not have a non-stick coating on it, the thing to remember, if you use a hot pan and cold oil, then your food won't stick to it. So obviously the thing you want to do is heat your skillet up first, get it hot, add your cold oil, and then add your food to it, and your food won't stick. That's something easy to remember. Of course, now that you got your skillet all nice and hot, you're cooking, you're gonna need a spatula. And now this is like a rubber spatula versus a metal spatula. This is obviously something you're gonna use to flip pancakes. You're gonna use this to flip hamburgers. You're gonna use this to do different things like that with. And this is more of a scraper. And probably gonna use this rubber coated spatula more with the non-stick, because you don't want to scrape off your non-stick coating. So these things work great. They're made out of silicone. They go up to like 550 degrees, so if you forget that it's near the stove, you don't have to worry about it melting. It's not going to melt in your pot or your skillet or anything like that. Another thing the kitchen really needs is a set of measuring utensils. These are measuring spoons, obviously, and measuring cups. Now the difference between measuring cups and this is like a dry measure. This is a liquid measure, obviously. This was for volume and this one's for basically weight. So if you got like flour, sugar, brown sugar, different things like that, you want to use something like this. If you're trying to measure milk or orange juice or something liquid, then you want to use this. If you're making a small batch of something just for you, just for one or two people, there's not that much difference. But obviously I cook for a lot of people, and it makes a huge difference in the amount that I use. So when I'm using like a gallon size liquid measure, you know, versus a big cup, it makes a huge difference in the outcome of what I'm using those. This is a vegetable peeler. I use this a lot for peeling carrots and apples and squash and different things like that. So there's various types of these on the market. You know, this is one of my favorite kind because it's just easier to use. And it's got the blades on both sides so I can scrape both ways with the carrot. The most obvious thing in the world right here is a can opener. Everybody knows what a can opener is, but obviously, I mean, I've had people ask me questions about can openers and how to use them. So this is just a basic can opener. I've got a couple of different size pots here. And these pots are all stainless steel pots. And obviously the size difference makes a difference. You know, if you're going to cook for a small amount of people, you're going to make pasta for yourself, macaroni and cheese for yourself, obviously you want a smaller pot versus a larger pot. You're going to cook for 6 or 8 people, you need a bigger pot. Pretty simple stuff there. Again, you have a spoon. These are 2 spoons that you would use to stir things with and different things like that. A slotted spoon, you're trying to get some macaroni out of the pot. You're trying to get something out of the pot that you don't want the liquid, so obviously you're going to use a slotted spoon versus a solid spoon. And again, just stir things up with those. This is my extra set of hands, the tongs. I love tongs. I cannot get by in the kitchen without my tongs. I use them all the time for everything, for everything. I don't use a fork nearly as much as I use a tong to flip things over. I flip my hamburgers with my tongs. I flip my chicken with my tongs. I take things out of the oven with my tongs. You won't do that, of course, you know, because it's not really safe, but I've been doing it a lot. So. This is probably my favorite thing in the kitchen when I was a boy. with my grandmother. I was like 4 years old, you know, and I would follow her around in the kitchen, you know, and we would have spaghetti. And she would always say, "Go get the spaghetti getter." And it's really just a spaghetti server, you know, but she called it the spaghetti getter, and this just brings back lots of good memories for me, you know, as a child working in the kitchen with my grandmother. So you're gonna need a pasta server just to serve up your spaghetti. A potato masher, you know, obviously you want to make some mashed potatoes from scratch. There's lots of product on the market today, instant mashed potatoes and so forth and so on, but you cannot beat a really good homemade mashed potato. Boil up some potatoes and use that to mash them up with. A couple of different kinds of colanders. Once you got your pasta cooked, you know, you're just going to drain your pasta, do something like this. There's various types on the market. This is an old beat up metal one that I've had for years, but there's different kinds on the market. There are plastic ones, there's kinds that collapse, all different kinds of things. And this is a fine mesh strainer for like just finer things. This one's got bigger holes obviously, and this one's just for a little bit more finer mesh there. And last but not least, probably the most important tool in the kitchen is a thermometer. Just a kitchen thermometer. You're going to need this, a meat probe to tell when chicken is done, to tell when your fish is done, to tell when things are done. I've been cooking for many, many years, and I usually touch food to tell when it's done, but you won't do that. You're going to use one of these. And there are many, many different styles and varieties on the market. This one happens to be a battery-powered one. They're good. I mean, there's good and bad things about battery-powered and not battery-powered, but this is the kind that we use here on campus, and that's what I use every day. That's pretty much it. Just basic equipment, just basic things. With these implements here, you can probably pretty much cook anything that you really want to cook in the kitchen. And happy cooking.